A warm welcome to everyone joining us from all over the world. We're here ready for stage number 2 of TCR European Endurance. The third race of the season is underway, and we are here now with our second stage for the second to last race of this season. I am Daniele Spadi. I will be your commentator today for what looks to be another spectacular stage. We've had great fun, especially this morning with the highlights of stage number 1 now on your screen. It was a great fight between two of our cars, and that was the number 10 entry of BRC Racing Team making their debut this weekend with Victor Davidovski and Nestor Girolami, and of course the pole sitters Vimevec Motorsport with car number 6 that you're now seeing, the Cupra Leon of Salvatore Tavano and Eric Scalvini, who had to chase down their rivals in the latter stage of the opening stage. And then we've seen some great battles, some great overtakes, and of course the Cupra of Tavano and Scalvini, who took the stage win and the race lead. We also saw the car brought by BF Motorsport, and that is, of course, the one of championship leader Yuri Brigliadori, who is now back together with Alessandro Alcidi. The two able to finish in third, the opening stage of this race weekend. Meanwhile, here you see the Audi of Tudor Motorsport with Edoardo Maccari and Emilio Damante able to finish in the lead of the DSG standings for the first time this season. This was the fight for the win between Victor Davidovski and Salvatore Tavano, the latter pulling off this amazing move up the inside into turn 11 with just 10 minutes left on the clock, and that was the winning move for stage number 1. But let's not forget that in TCR European Endurance, we award points not only for the final result of each individual stage, but then, of course, for the overall results, which are created by the sum of the times of both stages, and that will be decided after today. So let's not forget about the results from stage number 1, where Scalvini and Tavano led with 6.6 seconds over Davidowski and Girolami, which means that if these two cars were to finish in the first two places, Davidowski and Girolami would have to be in first and with a gap bigger than 6.6 seconds in order to take the win from race number 3. We've had two different winners in the opening two races. Race number 1 went to PMA Motorsport with Franco Girolami, the brother of Nestor, and Sandro Pelatti with the Audi of PMA Motorsport. And then, of course, race number 2, we saw the incredible DSG entry of Senna Somerville in the Cupra Leon DSG to take the overall victory as well as the class win back at the Slovakia ring. Now we've seen the grid with our starting drivers. It's going to be Salvatore Tavano and Victor Davidovski on the front row. The starting grid is created by the final results of stage number 1, with the drivers that crossed the finish line now able to start the second half of this race. So Alessandro Alcidi will be starting in third. Of course, he is the teammate of championship leader Yuri Brigliadori, with Ibrahim Okiai in fourth position for the Gen 1 entry of Texaco Team AMS, the reigning team's champions. Fifth position for Emilio Damante. He was the leading car in the DSG class after stage 1, with Umut Göktaş right alongside him. Chris Issa, who made his debut together with Göktaş earlier today in a race. He starts from 7th alongside Luca Giovannoni. It wasn't an easy time for Tudor Motorsport this morning. Car number 38 was unable to finish stage number 1, had to retire for some issues early on. Then they tried to get back out on track, but unfortunately, Giovannoni's teammate Davide Rosini had to stop along the track just outside the pit window, and therefore they weren't able to finish stage number 1, though they're back for stage number 2, and crucially, they can try and gain as many points as possible. Speaking of points, of course, this is a crucial race for the championship. Let's not forget that the worst result out of the first 3 races, so Mugello, Slovakia Ring, and this one right here in Vallelunga, so the worst one out of those 3 will be dropped And then, of course, the final round in Misano, scheduled to take place in November, will be worth 1.5 times the amount of the actual points that are awarded to each and every driver in every single race of every single weekend. So we're very close to the start of the formation lap. We're just over a minute before the start. Now you can see the engineers leaving the grid, getting ready to watch the start from the pit lane, as of course the drivers are now left with themselves and themselves only on the starting grid, getting ready to start off stage number 2 here in Vallelunga, with Salvatore Tavano and Victor Davidovski on the front row, Alessandro Alcidi and Ibrahim Okiai on the second, Emilio Damante, Umut Öktaş, Chris Issa and Luca Giovannoni rounding out the starting grid. The formation lap is about to begin, as we're bound to start right about now, as the green flag is waved to the drivers. We're ready to start stage number 2 with 55 minutes of racing yet to be enjoyed by the fans who came here with great numbers. Vallelunga always attracts a lot of people, which is naturally very, very common for the Roman racetrack, which is 4 kilometers long with 15 corners, 7 to the left, 8 to the right. A racetrack that was built originally in 1951 before asphalt was put on the surface in 1957. It enjoyed some big renovation projects in the 21st century. It is one of the most avant-garde racetracks in Europe, especially due to its eco-friendly nature. But naturally, biggest changes happening in 2005, when the complex of turns 6, 7, and 8 was added. And we are there right about now with our cars now getting to the long hairpin of Campagnano, turn number 7. Circuit that is rather short compared to other tracks we have visited in the past with TCR European Endurance in between 2024 and 2025. But naturally, it is one of the best for touring car racing. We've seen plenty of important championships in here, with TCR World Tour coming here in 2023 and 2024. The WTCR Race of Italy happening in Vallelunga in 2022. And let's not forget that later this November, Vallelunga will be hosting the TCR World Ranking Final with the same format as the one that we are witnessing in the history of TCR European Endurance. So everything is ready for the start of stage number 2. Let's not forget that Salvatore Tavano will be starting from the lead. He was the quickest driver out of the ones starting right now. Therefore, he will be the one to watch in these first 25 minutes or so. But let's not forget that car number 6 has a 6.6 second advantage over car number 10 that is starting right alongside it after the opening stage. Here we are with the images live from Vallelunga, from Curva Roma, the final one of the 15 that make up this historic circuit, as Salvatore Tavano and Victor Davidovski get ready to start off stage number 2 here in Vallelunga. We will be seeing the lights turn from red to green, and we are racing right about now as Salvatore Tavano leads the pack. It was a great start from Alessandro Alcidi, who is already alongside, if not in front, of Victor Davidovski, and that is the case with the Italian stealing second from the North Macedonian, with Ibrahim Okiai right behind, together with Emilio Damante and Umut Göktaş. Damante trying to fend off the two Texaco Team AMS entries. We're now going to the two Cimini corners. And that is exactly what's happened. It was a good start from Luca Giovannoni as well, overtaking Chris Issa at the very start of this stage. So far, so good for Salvatore Tavano. He had the best launch out of the top 3 together with Alessandro Alcidi, who was able to overtake Viktor Davidovsky, getting the jump on the North Macedonian driver, who has plenty of experience between TCR Europe and TCR World Tour. He's a race winner in TCR Europe too. And now he looks to the outside into turn number 8 on Alessandro Alcidi, but unfortunately for him, that's not going to happen. Now trying to make perhaps a move around the outside of turn number 11, Semaforo, but that is very hard to accomplish. That was the corner he got overtaken in from Salvatore Tavano earlier this morning in stage number 1. He's definitely learned how to change that, and that is why he looks to be very racy now on Alessandro Alcidi. Was as fast as Viktor Davidovsky in the second half of stage number 1. Therefore, we could expect the two to run a similar pace in stage number 2. Fortunately for them, however, Salvatore Tavano was much quicker than them and looks to be, at least in these opening stages, quicker than the pair following him. He already has a 1.7 second lead over Alcidi and Davidovsky. Meanwhile, behind, Emilio Davante still has a DSG lead. He had a very healthy gap of over 50 seconds on his rivals after stage number 1, thanks to his incredible and impeccable work. But of course, let's not forget his teammate Edoardo Macari, who also did a phenomenal job in the first half of stage number 1. We will be seeing him later for the second half of this stage, trying to hopefully for Tudor Motorsport bring home their first ever DSG class win here in TCR European Endurance. So far, it's a great start for Luca Giovannoni too, as he has overtaken Umut Göktaş for 6th place in this stage. Great to see car number 38 finally be back on a level playing field with the others after the issues encountered in stage number 1. But that was to be expected given the hard work of Tudor Motorsport, which has shown to be the fastest team this weekend in the DSG standings. So far, so good. Meanwhile, for Salvatore Tavano, as he looks to have gained quite a bit on Alessandro Alcidi. He's just at the fastest lap of the stage with a 1 minute 42.698. He was a 4 second quicker than Alcidi and a second and a half faster than Viktor Davidovsky in 3rd position. Here is Salvatore Tavano. He is, of course, an expert of touring car racing, especially in Italy. He is a 3-time TCR Italy champion between 2018 and 2020. Now he's back racing in these cars. And he looks to have lost none of his speed. He was the fastest driver in Q2, the second qualifying session, whereas Nestor Girolami was the faster driver overall, as his lap time in Q1 was the fastest of the entire weekend, and he will be taking over from Viktor Davidovsky in the second half of stage number 2 aboard car number 10, the Honda Elantra, for the first time racing in TCR European Endurance. It was great to see such an iconic car for TCR racing make its debut after a year and a half of racing in TCR European Endurance. But we've seen Hyundai before with the i30N. Now it is so nice to see the Elantra too, one of the fastest cars and most complicated cars to drive as well. But BRC Racing Team is a very capable crew. Not to mention, of course, that Nestor has driven this car flawlessly this year. He has been competing TCR World Tour, taking a win in Australia this month in the latest race weekend of TCR World Tour. And now he is racing in TCR European Endurance together with Davidovsky, of course, trying out the format that will be present in the TCR World Ranking Finals. as well as trying to accomplish some European glory too. And of course, looking for some practice with the endurance format. Meanwhile, the first 6 minutes, of racing have gone by, with Salvatore Tavano still in the lead. Another 6 tenths gained on Alessandro Alcidi and 8 tenths gained over Viktor Davidovski. The gap now being at 3.3 seconds between himself and Alcidi. But crucially, the fight is likely going to be between Tavano and Davidovski, and then later on between Scalvini and Nestor Girolami. The gap from stage number 1 was 6.6 seconds, so we will have to keep that in mind. Meanwhile, here is the leader of the Gen 1 standings. That is car number 1 with Ibrahim Okiai. Car that has been very quick this weekend. The Gen 1 entry of Texaco Team AMS, the reigning champions for the team standings as well as every single category. They swept all titles in 2024. This year they are facing fierce company and fierce challengers, but still fighting hard. They do not have the Gen 2 car this year, the one that they had won the title with in 2024 with Eric Briadori and Turgut Konunkoglu. They have stuck with the Gen 1 and DSG entries though. Turkish team being one of the first ones to believe in the project of the series promoted by Mauricio Slaviero. And now back into contention for an overall podium, this time for the Gen 1 entry, after its DSG car did great things throughout the first half of 2025. Car number 1 is still within reach of Alcidi and Davidovski, holding down the fort in the Gen 1 standings and actually being quite quick, just 3 tenths slower than the newer Gen 2 cars. Of course, they are both with a sequential gearbox, but the difference is that cars belonging to the Gen 1 class are older and have received no updates from 2018 onwards, as per technical notifications released by the WSC. Meanwhile, the cars allowed to fight for the Gen 2 standings are the newer models. And then, of course, last but not least, TCR European Endurance welcomes the DSG cars as well, those with the DSG gearbox, and that is what is great about this championship, becoming effectively a multi-class series with the same origin car-wise, but of course, 3 entries having wildly different paces due to the fact that, of course, the creation and the mechanical parts, especially in the gearbox section, are vastly different. Meanwhile, we've seen the gap between Alcidi and Davidovski grow to 2 seconds, though Davidovski still within striking distance of Alessandro Alcidi. And that is, of course, exactly what Davidovski needs. On the other hand, a potential issue for Tavano could give car number 10 the chance to take home victory on their debut, but it has to be said that car number 6 deserves some good luck after some misfortune in the opening 2 races of this 2025 TCR European Endurance season. Here is Davidovski chasing down Alessandro Alcidi. In front, Salvatore Tavano has a 4.9 second gap, which is only bound to grow larger. Let's see now that the cars are set to cross the line for the 5th time. And yes, the gap has once again grown by 6 tenths of a second on between Tavano and Alcidi. However, Viktor Davidovski looks to become slightly quicker now. A 143.4 is the North Macedonians' fastest lap of the stage, only losing 3/10 from Salvatore Tavano. Therefore, closing in. Meanwhile, here is the DSG entry of Emilio Davante, and it has been a phenomenal weekend for Tudor Motorsport so far with car number 8. The same cannot be said, of course, for car 38 after the issues that they had in stage number 1. But naturally, what's important for the team is that car number 8 is still alive and well, especially given the fact that they have been fantastic throughout Sunday between stages 1 and so far the first 12 minutes of stage number 2. Car number 8 driven not only by Emilio Davante, but of course by Edoardo Macari as well. And both have made huge strides forward since their debut in Mugello. Always fighting for the DSG podium, but never able to take home victory in their class. Both of them belonging to Senna Summerbell in both Mugello and Slovakia Ring. But now the door is open for Davante and Macari to take home glory in the DSG standings. Speaking of Summerbell, his teammate Chris Issa is in 8th position and 4th of the DSG standings. He's trying to do the best job he can before handing the car over to Senna Summerbell, who has been one of the revelations of this season. And naturally, of course, they will be looking to do the best job they can in order to finish strong. Here is car number 8 still in the lead. Behind them, of course, in this stage is Luca Giovannoni, making it a Tudor Motorsport 1-2. Though, of course, in the entire race standings, Tudor only has car number 8 in front, as of course number 38 had its fair share of troubles throughout the opening stage. The second position belongs to Umut Göktaş so far, with Chris Issa in 3rd and Giovannoni in 4th. Though in this stage, of course, Giovannoni is up to 2nd. And Umut Göktaş is doing a phenomenal job, as this is, let's not forget, his first race weekend in TCR European Endurance. It's his European debut as well. Driver that is doing very well in the Turkish series back home. Naturally, they have done a great job, Texaco TMS that is, to secure a great lineup for this weekend as well. Umut Göktaş will in fact be handing it over to Berk Alpaklioglu in the final part of this stage number 2. Alpaklioglu, who is one of the youngest drivers of the championship. Both of them, Göktaş and Kapakoglu, that is, are part of the junior standings. But meanwhile, we are back with car number 10, and that is Viktor Davidovski. So far, they are in 3rd place in stage number 2, but crucially in 2nd in the overall standings. They are so far led by Salvatore Tavano and Eric Scalvini with car number 6. And between the 8.9 seconds that they have now and the 6.6 seconds that they had from stage number 1, their gap is over 15 seconds over car number 10. 3rd is Alessandro Alcidi. That is, of course, for the overall standings, with Ibrahim Okiai in 4th and Emilio Davante in 5th position. Now the first 60 minutes have gone by, and that is very important to note, as in a bit we will be starting from the pit lane to see some action. That is, of course, for the mandatory pit stops that will have to be faced by teams and drivers alike. We've seen how it can make a lot of difference. We saw how Vimmerk Motorsport was able to gain quite a bit of time in the pits compared to VRC Racing Team, and that is for the opening stage of this race. Who knows whether or not that can actually happen again today. That would be phenomenal for car number 6, as let's not forget they are on a quest to win their first ever race this weekend. That is, of course, for the car that is currently leading, because Vimmerk Motorsport is actually looking for their second consecutive overall victory after the one with Senna Summerbell, despite him being in a DSG car after the success that they had enjoyed at the Slovakia Ring earlier this season in race number 2. Meanwhile, here is car number 2, that is Umut Göktaş, whose abilities we've spoke about before. But this is a great weekend for him, especially given the results that we have seen so far this weekend. Now starting in the central part of the race. Naturally, Texaco Team AMS was one of the strongest teams coming into the season. They have done a great job. Naturally, looking at the fight for the overall standings, it is very hard to see them challenge for the title once more, given that they have elected not to partake with their third car, the one that won the title last year with Briadori and Konukoglu. That it was to be expected. This is still a great chance for them to fight for, of course, the Gen 1 standings, where they have been dominating so far, and the DSG2. They have been trying to take that elusive victory in the latter for 3 races now. Unfortunately, not happening so far, given Senna Summerbell's incredible pedigree. But naturally, today, everything is still wide open, though after stage number 1, Eduardo Maccari and Emilio Davante have a great advantage over car number 2. Here we see Viktor Davidovsky, and it's been a while since we've talked about the gaps out front. So let's see one more time with Salvatore Tavano, that has a 9.1 second gap over Alessandro Alcidi, who, to be fair to him, is doing a great job holding back Viktor Davidovsky at 1.8 seconds. The two had similar pace in stage 1 as well. So that is nice to see from Alcidi, who is back racing in TCR European Endurance following a round of absence. At the Slovakia Ring, in fact, BF Motorsport had selected Giuseppe Cartia to partner Yuri Brigliadori. The two replicated the result that Alcidi and Brigliadori took in Mugello, which was securing a pole position and taking home second place in the race. Championship leader Yuri, of course, the brother of reigning champion Eric. But Yuri contrary to his brother, is still looking for his first elusive victory in the overall standings after missing out twice this season already, finishing in second in both occasions. It looked like this weekend could prove handy, but unfortunately, a drive shaft issue in qualifying relegated BF Motorsport to the back of the grid. Brigliadori will be partaking in the second half of stage number 2, as he was the driver who started in stage number 1. Those are the rules of TCR European Endurance. His lead, however, in the championship will be heavily cut down if the results were to stay like this, because of course the worst result for each driver will be cut after this weekend before the season finale in Misano, which will have a 50% increase in the weight of the points, and by the rulebook will have to be taken into account by the end of the season. Here is Salvatore Tavano, our race leader, and we're definitely inching closer to the start of the mandatory pit stops. We had seen the first one in stage number 1 with 29 minutes left on the clock, and now it's less than 33. Here is BRC Racing Team with, you can see, Nestor Girolami already suited up with his helmet. Let's also give a general review of the standings, not just of stage number 2, which you can see on the graphics, but also of the overall classifications. That is, car number 6, Salvatore Tavano and Eric Scalvini still in the lead with a 17-second gap over Victor Davidovski and a 38-second margin over Alessandro Alcidi and Yuri Brigliadori. Ibrahim Okiai is still in 4th, just like in stage number 2. Same goes for Emilio Damante in 5th position and leader of the PSG standings. But as you can see, in 6th place so far is Luca Giovannoni, but unfortunately for them, they had an issue in stage number 1, and that effectively made them retire from the opening stage of this race. Therefore, they're down in 8th position in the overall standings, with Umut Göktaş and Chris Issa inheriting 2nd and 3rd respectively. Here is Salvatore Tavano once more. We are into the final few minutes before the start of the pit window, which will happen when we reach 30 minutes on the clock, which means that we have still a minute or so before the pits. Therefore, next lap will be the first one available to the drivers to enter the pit lane. This is the pit wall of BRC Racing Team, looking closely at what's happening. Of course, they have to somehow gain back the time lost in stage number 1, and of course the one lost here in stage number 2 so far. They have, however, the best weapon of this weekend to use, and that is Nestor Girolami, who has been nothing short of excellent this weekend. He has posted the fastest lap in qualifying and of the entire weekend, for that matter. The only driver able to break the barrier of the 1 minute 40s in qualifying. And he was by far the fastest driver in stage number 1 too. So we will be definitely checking in with the lap times set by car number 10. And because of that reason, we expect them to be one of the first teams to enter pit lane, just like Alessandro Alcidi, who will be eager to hand it over to Yuri Brigliadori. On the contrary, I think that Salvatore Tavano will wait a bit longer, as he was slightly quicker than Eric Scalvini throughout not just this weekend, but the entire season too. It's Scalvini still very quick and able to keep 2nd position in stage number 1 in the first few laps. And now we are seeing the cars coming towards pit lane. Let's see if someone dives in at the end of lap number 14. Well, the first one is, by no surprise, Chris Issa, as I think maybe Davidovsky will pit into the pit lane as well. Yes, he has. So it's Chris Issa and Viktor Davidovsky entering pit lane first. Wimmerberg Motorsport with car number 32 starting the pit procedure, changing tires. At least that's what's happening on the front left, but I suspect front right will receive the same treatment too. And just in front of them is BRC Racing Team. Mr. Jeremy helping Viktor Davidovsky climb out of the car. Also receiving maybe some tips and tricks on how the car is behaving under the sun. It is a very hot day here in Vallelunga. It has to be said. In the entire weekend, we have reached 30 degrees with the air temperature, which was, I have to say, quite unexpected, being this late in the summer. And then the track reaching almost 45 degrees in temperature, with now Nessa Girolami being strapped in by his team. And they're going to have to hope for an incredible turnaround here if they want to win on debut, which was something that happened for a very limited circle in TCR European Endurance. And that was for, well, the only race where that was sure to happen. That was the very first race in the history of the championship back in Balaton Park, Hungary in 2024, when Texaco Team AMS with Eric Brigliadori and Turgut Konukoglu took the win. Meanwhile, car number 38 has stopped as well, and that is Luca Giovannoni, giving Davide Rosini control of his Volkswagen Golf DSG. This is Nessa Girolami taking the fast lane once more. We briefly saw Senna Summerbell leave pits as well. We also see Sinan Shifchi now in the car for Texaco Team AMS and the Gen 1 entry, which means that Ibrahim Okiai has finished his work this weekend, and the same goes for Emilio Damante, who now pulls into the pit lane from the DSG lead. It's going to be a double pit stop for Tudor Motorsport as the Audi pulls into the pit lane now. You can see Eduardo Macari sprinting to help his teammate out of the Audi RS3 DSG, a car that has effectively written the history of this championship so far. In Slovakia, we had the very first win that was not obtained by the German brand, and that was Cupra taking home victory with Senna Summerbell and Wimmerwerk Motorsport. Who knows if Hyundai can add their name to this list as well? That would happen if Nessa Girolami and Viktor Davidovsky were able to finish 6.6 seconds in front of Salvatore Tavano and Alex Calvini. Of course, we will be updating you throughout this second half of stage number 2 with the overall results. That would be quite hard to miss. Meanwhile, here is BF Motorsport in the pit lane as well. That is Alessandro Acidi stopping and giving Yuri Briadori control of the car. Meanwhile, of course, race leader Salvatore Tavano has no reason of stopping early, since he is one of the fastest drivers of the entire field. He's going to continue as long as possible in order to gain as much time as possible on his rivals. Tavano now entering Brigliadori, waiting for the minimum pit time to come by, as now Eric Scalvini sprints to help Salvatore Tavano out of the car and getting ready to step inside the Cupra. hopefully bringing it to a second consecutive victory as a brand. First one for the sequential gearbox version of the Cupra Leon. Meanwhile, Brigliadori is back out on track. It will be interesting to see whether or not Nestor Girolami was able to take the place of Yuri Brigliadori. Well, Girolami has just set the fastest lap of the race with a 1 minute 40.922, and that is phenomenal from Girolami. It's 1.7 seconds quicker than any other driver so far this stage, even Salvatore Tavano. Of course, however, that is with less fuel aboard the car, but Girolami has been super quick this weekend. So just 22 minutes and 30 seconds left in the stage number 2. Now Salvatore Tavano has pulled into the pit lane. He was the last one that was needing a stop. And after his Cupra, now controlled by Eric Scalvini, will leave the pit lane. We will be, in fact, done with mandatory pit stops, which is naturally what everyone was waiting for before starting to make some predictions. And here is the Cupra now released in anger, back out on track. They're, of course, in first place, thanks to the gap that, of course, the first half of the race has given them, thanks to Salvatore Tavano. Now towards the start-finish line goes car number 1 of Sinan Shifci. They are in 4th position so far and still holding the Gen 1 lead, of course. And here you see the gap has visually shrunk quite a bit between Salvatore Tavano and Nestor Girolami. It was around 60 seconds before the stop. Now we will see whether or not that happens. The change. Meanwhile, let's go to the pit lane for the very first time in stage number 2.
We're here with Victor Davidovsky. Victor, first of all, you are debuting in this series. How is it going?
Yes, this is my debut in this series and first race this year after 1 year rest. First year I'm happy to join in this year endurance. In every series in this year, but in this year endurance especially because I share the car with Bebo, and when you share the car with two driver is very good because Bebo gave big target and I need to put all the focus to do best lap.
It's a double debut because also the Elantra is debuting in the championship. What kind of car is it?
So it's difficult for me to say because first time to drive an Elantra and I need to get used to the same in the car. I don't get time to do some tests, but it is what it is. This is first test and first race for me with an Elantra.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Back to you.
Thank you so much to our pit reporter, Alicia Cecchi, and that was Victor Davidovsky at her microphone. It's great to see Victor racing once again. Of course, as we said before, he's a racing driver with plenty of experience in international and global competitions on the TCR World, racing in TCR World Tour as well as TCR Europe throughout his career, and now partnering Nestor Girolami in this TCR European Endurance debut. Now, Girolami is only 5.3 seconds behind Tavano, but Eric Scalvini. But let's not forget that, of course, Girolami will have to overtake Scalvini and then build a 6.7-second gap over him in order to take home the win. Now the gap is only 5.3 seconds between the two. But meanwhile, Yuri Villadori is also starting to build a bit of a gap over his rivals and trying to close down on Eric Scalvini, but that unfortunately for him is not looking likely. In the last lap, however, Scalvini was able to keep Girolami at bay to outlapping him with a 1 minute 41.9. We'll see whether or not that actually helps at the end of the day. But it's looking quite good for Scalvini and Girolami to at least finish in the top two spots. We will be seeing whether or not Yuri Brigliadori could do something about that, or at least to see who is going to emerge as the winner here at Vallelunga. But let's go back to the pit lane with Alicia Cecchi and Chris Issa.
We're here in the pit lane with Christopher Issa, and he was just telling me this was the first race in 33 years for you. How is it?
Well, it was quite exciting. It got the blood flowing and the memories back. And I'm happy to have at least kept it together for my first stint.
We were seeing you in the championship before. This was the first time in the car. How is it sharing with Senna Somerville?
Well, he's been an excellent teammate and he's very fast, so that's going to help us over, in the championship.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Back to you.
Well, great to hear the words of Senna Somerville's teammate, Chris Issa, who has made his racing debut this weekend. He had partaken in free practice in both Mugello and Slovakia ring, but this was the very first time he has raced the car in anger in both qualifying and both stages. Now, his teammate Senna Somerville, paced by the cameras, he is down into 8th place in this stage number 2, but crucially in 7th and in 3rd place in the DSG standings in the overall classifications for this race weekend. He's going to try and at least patch the back of Berk Kalpaklioglu. He is 18 seconds behind, but he has shown some amazing pace throughout this season. So it's not that impossible for him to try and catch up to his rival. It's going to be quite tough, of course, but not impossible. And of course, we know that in motorsport, anything can happen at any point throughout any race. And so Senna will be pushing as hard as he can. But speaking of pushing, Alicia Cecchi is back in the pit lane with Salvatore Tavano.
We are once again in the pit lane with Salvatore Tavano, currently race leader. How was the first stint?
We're very happy from the first stint and for all the weekend. We hope for the last 30 years that our guys fast and we have a good setup and our tires are in good condition. I hope we finish.
Let's keep our fingers crossed. Thank you.
Thank you to you. Bye-bye.
Back to you.
Thank you so much to Alicia Cecchi, of course. Salvatore Tavano and Felix Calvini have been in this position before in Mugello, when right about now, actually, the car had a technical failure that brought an early end to their winning hopes. So far, though, none of the sort here in Vallelunga. Can the third time be lucky, as the saying goes, for Vimmerbeck Motorsports' main entry in the championship, the overall car that was meant to be fighting for the overall title. And so it could be as I said, third time lucky for Scalvini and Tabano. But that remains to be seen. Now the gap is 5.7 seconds. It looks like Scalvini's tires may be slightly better off than Girolami's because the Argentinian had a tremendous first lap with a 1 minute 40.9. But then he's now lapping as quick as Eric Scalvini, if not slightly slower. He's now lost a tenth of a second in lap 23. That is not ideal for Girolami, who does not look like he has the pace compared to Scalvini with a hotter track compared to what they did earlier this morning. It was 9 a.m. actually, so the temperature was much lower back then than what it is now. Here is Senna Somerville crossing the start finish line. He's trying to catch back to Berkal Paglioglu, but the latte is actually holding quite well.
But and me whole stage and very hot. But now we are third, a good position for this championship. We see Yuri.
Thank you so much. Back to you.
Lovely to hear from Alessandro Chidi as well, who was back racing this weekend after missing out at the Slovakia ring. He is now back behind the wheel of the BF Motorsports Audi that we're seeing right about now, with the amazing job of the media crew behind the scenes. Always needs to be said and remembered, with now car number 2 chased by the cameras. That is Berkal Paglioglu in the Texaco TMS entry, fighting for a spot on the podium in both the current stage as well as the overall race classifications. Now waiting for Senna Somerville to appear too, but the gap is still over 15 seconds. Somerville not able to catch back to Kalpagloglu in time, I fear. Not this time anyway. But so far things seem to be pretty much frozen, as now Alcidi and Brigliadori, with the latter in the car, were able to lap back Kalpagloglu in the number 2 DSG entry. And meanwhile, a bit of animal glory as well. Of course, Vallelunga being in the middle of nature here, 30 kilometers away from Rome. It's always nice to see everyone enjoying the on-track action, not just the fans at the circuit. We've had plenty of people coming here in Vallelunga this weekend, despite the heat. And that was very nice to see throughout the entire race weekend. Now just less than 10 minutes left on the clock, with Eric Scalvini still in P1. Nesta Girolami is in second, Yuri Brigliadori in third. And that goes not just for stage number 2, but for the overall classifications as well, in this exact order. The only change will happen in the DSG standings, where Davide Rosini and Luca Giovannoni are in 6th place overall and in 2nd in the DSG standings. However, this morning's issues will be relegating them to 4th in the DSG class and 8th overall, behind Kalpakioglu and Somerville, for at least cars number 2 and 32 respectively. Meanwhile, we are now seeing Viktor Davidovsky, as well as still birds flying over the racetrack, looking from probably the best spot someone could actually hope for in this race circuit. Able to watch any corner at any time. But the action is still on track, with Eric Scalvini still holding a 5.5 second gap over Girolami. He has been absolutely phenomenal in this second half of stage number 2, just because of that very good rhythm that he has shown, that instead saw Nesta Girolami who of course is actually right now struggling to catch up to Eric Scalvini. That is not happening, and it's of course mandatory for him to push as hard as he can. Eric Scalvini being very quick throughout this entire first half of the season. Let's not forget that Vallelunga is round 3 of TCR European Endurance with a great moment for what is the championship. Still 2 rounds to go, one after this weekend, and that will be the season finale in Misano from the 12th to the 15th of November. A race that is going to award 50% more points than usual. And let's not also forget that in the standings, the worst result out of the first 3 races, that is Mugello, Slovakia Ring, and Vallelunga, will be dropped after this weekend. So we will have a clearer picture once we come to the end of this weekend. This is race leader Eric Scalvini together with Salvatore Tovano. They're about to do what so far no one was able to do this year, which is take the win in the overall classification as well as both stages. PMA Motorsport was only able to take the win in stage number 2 in Mugello when they won the opening race of the year. And then Senna Summerwell did the opposite, winning stage number 1 but finishing in second place in stage number 2. This will be a dominating performance for Wimmerwerk Motorsport, who are looking to clinch their second consecutive victory, but doing that with 2 different cars, and that is a feat no one has achieved in TCR European Endurance so far. This will be a weekend of firsts for Wimmerwerk Motorsport then, as car number 6 is still out with a 5-second gap, which is in total an 11.7-second gap with the results from stage 1 as well. Which means that, of course, Eric Scalvini and Salvatore Tavano are still with a healthy lead over Nestor Girolami and Viktor Davidovsky. And that is of the utmost importance for the last 4 minutes and 45 seconds. Meanwhile, here is the DSG leader, Eduardo Macari. We've spoken a lot of his teammate. That was Emilio Damante, but Macari deserves a lot of praise as well. Macari has grown quite a lot this year, together with his teammate, Emilio Damante, and they're looking to take a deserving win this time around. And speaking of victories, the Gen 1 standings are once again seeing Sinan Çiftçi and Ibrahim Okyay run away with the victory. This is the number 1 entry, the car that won the championship last year. Mexico Team AMS sweeping the titles. And that was, of course, phenomenal for Texaco Team AMS, who are back for more this year, trying to emulate what they did last year. So far, Sinan Çiftçi and Ibrahim Okyay are enjoying another great weekend, though they were looking for their first ever overall podium. That unfortunately does not look like the case today. Once again, is slipping into fourth, but they have done whatever they could with a Gen 1 entry. Now back with ESG class leaders, Edoardo Macari and Emilia Damante, currently in fifth position. He has been phenomenally quick this weekend, but to be honest, the entire Tudor Motorsport outfit has been very fast. Unfortunately for them, it wasn't all smooth sailing, as of course he has been, car number 38 has been hit by reliability issues throughout the weekend. And then, of course, a terminal issue in stage number 1 that prevented them from taking the checkered flag. Here is car number 38, the one that we were talking about before. They still have done a great job as Tudor Motorsport is looking to take a 1-2 in the DSG standings in stage number 2, something that they had already done in throughout the weekend in free practice. This is, of course, car that we were talking about before for Tudor Motorsport, with one of the new entries of this weekend, that is Davide Rosini, now in the car. He was unfortunately the one who suffered that issue in stage number 1, so it's nice to see him back on his feet, back racing. An amazing job by Tudor Motorsport to create an opportunity for them to continue. With now just 20 seconds left on the clock, we're getting ready to witness this final lap of the race with Eric Scalvini and Salvatore Tavano just inches away from what would be a flawless performance and another victory for Vimmerwerk Motorsport, the second in a row after Senna Somerville took the win in Slovakia. But now it's time for his teammates, Eric Scalvini and Salvatore Tavano, who are getting ready to take the final corner here in Vallelunga for one last time here in TCR European Endurance. They have waited a long time to take their first victory, but finally, Eric Scalvini and Salvatore Tavano are race winners in TCR European Endurance. A phenomenal effort from the entire Vimmerwerk Motorsport team as they take the win in the overall classification, as well as the stage victories in both stage 1 and 2 here in Vallelunga. They also took home pole position, and that is a full amount of points for car number 6 this weekend. That is a clean sweep too for them as they take home victory ahead of BRC Racing Team. Still an incredible effort from Nestor Girolami and Victor Davidowski, who secure second place on their debut. And then third place goes to Yuri Briadori and Alessandro Cidi, who are back on the podium for the third time in a row, this time not in second, but in third place. Victory in the Gen 1 standings for Sinan Çiftçi and Ibrahim Okyay, whereas we've already seen Edoardo Macari and Emilia Damante cross the line with the yellow, white, and red Audi of Tudor Motorsport behind the two leaders right here. And they are the DSG winners in both stage number 2 and in the overall classification. Phenomenal results then for Cupra and for Vimmerwerk Motorsport. They take the second win in a row with car number 6. A phenomenal effort for them, just ahead of Nestor Girolami and Victor Davidowski in the BRC Racing Team Honda Elantra. And then third place for Yuri Briadori and Alessandro Cidi. Whereas in the PSG standings, the overall classifications see car number 8 with Eduardo Macari and Emilio Damante in first, just ahead of Berk Karpaklioglu and Umut Göktaş for Texaco Team AMS. And then, of course, Sarah Summerbell and Chris Issa on the podium in the DSG standings. And that is everything from Vallelunga. These are the highlights of stage number 2. Thank you for being with us. And let's not forget that we have one more round in TCR European Endurance, and that will be in Misano from the 13th to the 15th of November. Thanks for being with us, and see you guys next time.